Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today is Brandon.
Hello.
We're here to talk about games and things.
Yep.
And what games of excitement do we have? Oh, Tears of the Kingdom. Surprise, surprise.
Yep.
And you played some of those Jet Set games.
Yeah, I did.
That you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, obviously.
We both played Tears of the Kingdom.
Well, yeah, and that's obviously the big thing this week.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo's newest, latest, greatest video game. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it's pretty good. I'm actually, just kind of in retrospect, I think probably one of my biggest things with this that kind of surprised me the most is, they waited until 3 weeks before the game come out to be like, I don't even remember it was 3 weeks. It might have even been less than that. But they're like, hey, we got this feature in there where you can kind of like assemble things together and, make things. And that's just kind of like, we took 2 logs and stuck a fan on it and now it's a boat. And they put zero effort in selling this feature that obviously is much deeper in the game.
Yeah.
And I think I even said it too when we were kind of talking about it. I'm like, oh, people are gonna build crazy shit with this.
I've seen some of the crazy shit people have built.
Yeah, and I
see the fucking mech that someone made?
Which one?
The mech?
I don't know which mech you're talking about.
No. They literally built like a working mech, like a bunch of different pieces together, and when you stand in the center, you're able to control the arms and the legs and everything, and the arms had like things that would explode that would shoot off of them. It was nuts. Some people have made crazy shit.
No, I haven't seen that one. I did see someone build a 3-stage rocket that kind of once you hit I'm assuming they had to manually detonate the rocket pieces, but just as it went up, it would just drop a section of it and then start up new rockets and keep going. So I saw that one. I saw a bunch of wild different flying ships with guns attached to them. They're just going around destroying things. Yeah. So people built some pretty crazy shit.
Yeah.
Not terribly surprised based on what's there, but in terms of functionality, it's pretty wild. They got so much going on there just with that feature alone. It's you could almost build an entire game just around that feature. And they're like, we just kind of threw this in as a fun idea. It's kind of how we took it away as. So yeah, I mean that's pretty wild. Just on its own there. Yeah, there's just a lot. I don't even know where to start breaking it down. It's because it's in some ways there are parts of me who kind of just kind of do feel that it's you made a comment last week where it's kind of oh, the Breath of the Wild expansion pack, and there's sometimes where it kind of feels like that. You have similar areas and you have kind of a building of that story, but then there's just so much extra depth that it's just very hard to wrap my head around, even with the time I've been able to spend with this game.
Yep.
I'd still feel like I've barely scratched the surface of what is there. I don't know how far you got. I guess it's kind of hard to share.
Not very, because I did a lot of stuff this week. Because I mentioned I had my stream anniversary this week, so yeah. But let's hear it.
So what have I done so far? So there are actual dungeons in this game now, kind of. I guess they call them dungeons. I think that they are about as deep as the Guardians were, honestly. They're more, how do I describe it? Similar length as say the Guardian dungeons were in the previous game. But they do have kind of more of a dungeon-y feel, but it still doesn't quite have that depth of the dungeons that they had previously. You're talking, hey, here's a few rooms and a handful of puzzles, and then you're at the boss, and that's kind of what it is. It's not here's the sprawling multi-story dungeon with locked doors and things like that. Granted, I've only seen 2 of the dungeons, and I've heard that I want to say that there might be around 6.
Okay.
So obviously there is room for more to go on there. So TBD whether or not future dungeons have more going on.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, the boss game in those dungeons definitely improved.
Nice.
The bosses that I have fought, I felt much more. I thought they were much more creative and much more fun. In the last game, they were like those Ganon blights or whatever, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, just like little Ganons with little elemental powers. Now you have kind of like some original new designs, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of some cool stuff. Like the boss I fought last night was very different than the boss that I fought in the previous dungeon,
Very
and
nice.
very different from the enemies that I had been seeing, just around the game. So that was pretty nice variety. There's just still so much to explore on land. Like I just can't really, comprehend all that stuff that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And just you just kind of think about some of the thoughts that they probably had when they were making this game. Like I definitely think Aonuma definitely had to be thinking to himself. I mean, especially after the re-release of Skyward Sword last year, be like, oh, people are all bitching about how boring the sky is. Let me show them. And because I don't know how much, like I said, I don't know how much you've explored. Sky's definitely a lot deeper now this time
Mm-hmm.
than it was in Skyward Sword, and a lot more interesting than it was in Skyward Sword. Because it does add a lot of verticality to everything that's going on there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's still like some, bullshit islands, but it kind of feels like, if you find something there, it's probably more likely to be something interesting. Although it's not like there's like.
Did you do the island where it was like the oh goodness, it's like towards the beginning.
Mhm.
It's like a rite of passage island for like kids that are like growing up or some shit or something, and essentially it was race through the top of this island as fast as possible, making it through all these green rings, and we'll give you the special item, which is the item that's given to people for their rite of passage. Did you do that?
No, I'm no clue what you're talking
So,
about.
so I did that, and it's made the entire game kind of trivial. Because you know what the item is?
What?
It is a shirt that has a literal, like, wingsuit attached to it that makes it
Uh huh.
so much easier to move in the air.
Oh no, I have
Yeah,
not seen
it's
this.
it's fantastic. It's like at the very beginning, and you won't even know it's there unless you talk to this one robot that then kind of gives you some backstory and tells you like, oh yeah, rite of passage sort of deal for all of these people. And if you can do it in this much time, we'll give you a special item. And if you're able to do it, which is in 19 seconds, I believe it is, then
Mhm.
you get an item that makes it so it's easier to control yourself in midair. So
Oh,
once I've gotten that now, it's just like it just does not matter. I'm so it's so easy to like corner turn and do all this crazy shit when diving out of the air that I've even been able to pull off things where like when you go up into the air and like kind of see what you're supposed to be doing or like reveal the map, that sort
yeah.
of deal.
Mhm.
And then you like come back down, and as you're coming back down, it's like, okay, well now you can see where you need to go, but you can't really quite get there. Yeah, I can just get there because of that suit I got. So I
Oh,
can
that's
just
pretty useful.
it's super useful.
Yeah,
So
I've
yeah,
just kind of had like I'm like, oh, let me get a little bit closer. Like, come on. Yeah, no, that was pretty. That's pretty, and that's the thing that this game, like, there's just so many just random surprises.
yep.
You just kind of go through and you just like, oh, here's the thing. Um, and some of it's useful, some of it's not usable. I
I almost
had
feel like that mountain, like the frozen mountain and everything that you're climbing up at in the first area to get to the God, I can't remember what its name is. It starts with a T, whatever. Tulin. I don't know what it is, but the bird that can do gust that you
oh yeah,
use.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that mountain that's like frozen and everything. They keep giving you items that are like the ability not to freeze to death, essentially.
Hmm.
Am I supposed to be having issues with like the weather there, like with the blizzard and everything?
So at least from what I saw, when you're just on that mountain,
Uh huh.
like if you have like some light cold protection, you'll be fine.
I've
Uh,
had zero issue whatsoever. I've just been climbing it like it's fucking nobody's business, and it's quite literally because of the pants and the shirt that I found at the beginning of the game, like the literal beginning of the game. I found cold protection pants, and then I found that wingsuit that I told you about. And both of those give me cold protection, so it's completely invalidated anything that's weather related. I
Oh
just
yeah.
walk through it like it's nothing. And it also kind of stops the whole slow down. You know how like you exert more energy when you're running in the snow? Yeah, that doesn't happen to me, so I just fucking go and do whatever. And that's what I've been doing. So it's like, oh, it's so treacherous going up the mountain. I'm like, is it? like really? You
No,
sure?
I'm fine.
No, I'm
No big
good,
deal.
man. I'm good, dog.
Yeah, no, because if you have like I think like two pieces of stuff that have that protection on it, then you're
Hmm.
protected from that weather, so you're fine.
Hmm.
It's just more of an issue. I think like with me, I only have just the pants, so I only really ran into an issue like at the much higher altitudes.
Mm.
So it wasn't really so much of an issue there. But that's the thing that's wild about this game. Like, there's so many different items, and they give you so many different like you know means of protection or different abilities or whatever. And then there's so many hidden things. I don't know. I randomly found. You probably would like this, like a treasure map,
Mm.
and it's like X marks the spot or whatever, and
Yeah.
the X is down in like the Legend of Zelda Stranger Things area.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I
so like
don't exactly understand what you're talking about, but I know what you mean. Because, like, all right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you this right now. I have
yeah.
not played that much of this game. I'm actually climbing the Sky Island right now to
Mhm.
go do my first like area, that sort of thing, with the bird that does the gusting and whatnot. Mostly because I just kind of walked around and explored things for quite a while and didn't follow the actual story path. You know those guys that like to hold those signs in place? Yeah,
Yeah.
I've probably found like 30 of them. And I've just made it so it's like, yeah, give me money. It's not actually 30, but I've found so many that I have just been farming them for rupees.
Well, and that's the thing with this game, right? Like it's made to be it's
Your
made to be
experience?
so open
Hmm.
that you can just do whatever the fuck you want, and it's incredibly valid.
So
Um,
my friend GP who was playing it the other
mhm,
night, he was talking to me and he's like, I don't think I'm supposed to be in this area.
mhm.
No, I don't think I'm supposed to be in this area. Yeah, this stuff is like one-shotting me. I don't think I'm supposed to be in this area. And he's like, all right, I decided to do this really hard, difficult part of the area, and I climbed to the top, and I have, I now have Link's like iconic shield. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just have it now. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well then,
Yeah, exactly. Like that shit escalated quickly. Like he was talking about like, oh yeah, it's difficult and I'm not exactly sure where I'm at. And I was like, okay, well he's probably means something like he's just in a harder part. But I'm like, I'm almost convinced now that he went to like the end game without realizing it.
yeah, I have no clue. But that's the thing. It's just like there's just so many just different things to explore. So I was
Mhm.
talking about Legend of Zelda: Stranger Things. So that's the underground cavern. So you haven't been in there at all?
No, no, I have not.
Yeah, so there's that whole like so you have the sky world, you have like the like obviously like Hyrule or whatever, and
Mhm.
then you have what's underneath Hyrule, like those caverns to explore. And it reminds me so much of Stranger Things. Because
Ah, okay.
everything's kind of like or I guess if you want to put it maybe more Nintendo perspective, maybe like the dark world from like Metroid Prime 2. Like
Mhm.
everything it's very dark. There's not really lights there. You're underground, whatever. But there's these like trees that you can light up that will kind of illuminate the area, but the enemies there are all kind of like these like enemies made out of that gloom or whatever.
Mhm.
So they're like enemies who you've kind of seen before, but they're like different. And then you'll just kind of find some random like I don't know. I was exploring the other day and I just found some random oh fuck enemy. I don't know what it was. It was a giant thing that took up like the whole screen and just had a giant eye. And it wasn't like the things I had seen on the surface. It was definitely like some different creature. And it just like one shot at me and I'm like, oh, nope, not where I was supposed to
What about
be.
the likes? That was cool when I first found those. I was like, what?
Yeah, they're scary in this game. Like, and they have all different flavors of likes too that I've seen. I've seen a couple different flavors of them so far.
Mhm.
So, Yeah, the enemies. I've heard that there are different, like, wild, scary enemies. The trees. Have you seen the scary ass trees?
I have seen the scary ass trees. They've scared the fuck out of me
Yeah.
because like they're always in like a like foggy area and
Uh-huh.
everything, and I'm just like, what the fuck is? Why did I just get punched by a tree? What the
Well, the
fuck?
first time I saw, and I did not like engage with it. I'm just kind of
Mhm,
like exploring around, doing my own thing, and I
mhm.
notice in front of me the shadow from the tree in the background is moving weird, and I'm like, "What?" And then like I kind of just ignore it for a little bit, and then I just notice it's still moving, like weird, and this time I was like, sure it wasn't because of how I was moving and like the background, like, the camera was shifting, like the shadows or something. Like I was sure at this point that it was definitely like something behind me, and I turn around and I see this tree moving, and
Mhm,
I'm like, "Is it a core rock?" And I'm like,
mhm.
"I don't want to find out." I just like run, but then like I did run into one later, and it definitely attacked me, and I was like, "Oh god!" I'm like, "We're not playing around with this tree. We gotta go." So yeah, no, it is just definitely, and I've heard through the grapevine of like scarier enemies that I have not run into yet.
Wonderful.
Um, yeah, no, so it is definitely just a much different, kind of experience in that way. And it's just like, ugh. Speaking of Nightmare Fuel, did you see what one of the unlocks is for the uh Link's Awakening amiibo?
No, what is
Mm,
it?
Let me see if I can find it. Let's show you a
Okay.
picture.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, da, da, da. This looks like it should have a picture of it. No, it's not there. It's just a website that's just to give you a virus. Um, let's see. Maybe this one seems a little bit more reliable. Um, oh, here we go. Oh no, it doesn't show it. There's got to be a picture. Let me click on imaging. Imaging. Oh, here's one. Here's one. All right. Be prepared.
Okay.
Posting in the general right now.
Oh God, I don't like that. I do not
Yes.
like that.
So it's like, I don't know, it looks like a murder mask. And it's literally just like the
It
Link face from like Link's Awakening.
looks like he
Like
just cut
the
his head off and is wearing it.
Yeah. No, and it's just like dead eyes, and it's just on like the normal body, and it's creepy as fuck. Yeah. So yeah, so there's that. I have used a bunch of the amiibo things. I mean, they work kind of similarly to they did in Breath of the Wild, where it's just kind of you scan it, and you'll get kind of like a random drop of. It's either you're gonna get like some generic items. Usually, actually, no. Let me say, it's usually some generic items,
Hmm.
maybe somewhat related to the character that you're scanning on. Like, if, for example, if you scan in like Wind Waker Link,
Hmm.
your drop is seems to be likely to be fish, as you know, it's the the ocean, like ocean link.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah, and then you usually get a treasure chest, and the treasure chest could either be some like common item, or it could be like some uncommon or like kind of rare item. Like this, the Mask of Awakening is like one example that you might get from the Link's Awakening thing. But there's like I scanned in the Ocarina of Time Link, and I got his like classic Link tunic from that. So yeah, so there's different things that you can get from them. Some that are cool. I guess there is too. I have not seen them myself, but you can't even get like I guess like the Majora's Mask link can get you like the Fierce Deity sword, for example. So there's some cooler stuff there, some cooler weapons that you can get from that. So, like I said, those seem to be uncommon. Although supposedly you can get these drops in the game too. Like I did, like that. So that X I was telling you about that led me
Uh
to
huh.
a treasure chest in the underground area. Um, that took me to a chest that had the Wind Waker tunic in it. So, uh, supposedly these things can all be obtained in game as well. Like nothing is definitively locked behind an amiibo. You just might have to go search for it a little bit harder. So, which I think is pretty nice, for the people who always like, want to be able to get those things. Like the ability is there. And you do get some like you get some fabric for the paragliders, so you can get like different paragliders that kind of are based on whatever series it is. I don't know where to get them made, but I do
Hmm.
have a bunch of those fabrics now.
Okay then.
Yeah, but that is the thing with this game. Like this world is so freaking huge
Hmm.
that It could be anywhere. Um, and I've only seen just a small fraction of this game. Yeah. Let me see. What else do they have? They. I did think it was funny, just kind of that opening cutscene, and I was like, they did have like Ganondorf talk, and then
Yeah.
I was like, what? Ganondorf's talking in this game, and then I was like, oh wait, everyone else did in the last one. He just wasn't there, so I guess that's fair. So you got all that. What else? What else is it? There's so much to talk about in this game. I almost don't even know where. I'm sure we'll be talking about it for weeks, probably. What else did they? I guess what else do I want to talk about this week? I guess rather shrines are back. They seem to be similar to the last game.
Yeah.
I feel like some of them are a little bit more clever. I definitely have seen some
I
that
just
were.
entered one and I don't know how to solve it, so that's already a plus.
Well, I found one where it was just kind of like, you know how like the shrines are kind of like those kind of like egg looking rock structures, and then they have kind of like that arms looking things that wrap around them.
Yes.
So I came across a shrine. Well, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, walking around, and then all of a sudden it's like, you found a shrine, and like I look and I'm like, there's no shrine, there's just like the arms, and I'm like, that's weird. So I kind of walk up to it, and like the little emblem pops up, and then the quest is like, follow the light and get the gem that's there.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, so I like follow the light, and it takes me to one of those, like I think it's called the Hinoxes, like those big one-eyed like Cyclops ogre things. Has this gem around its neck that's projecting this light, and so I'm like, okay. So I beat the crap out of it, stole its gem, and then took it back to the thing, and then the gem grows into the giant shrine, and then you go inside, and then you get one of the things. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's not. I'm like, I don't know what I was expecting, but that's a lot different. So that was pretty cool.
Go on.
Oh no, you say what you're gonna say.
All right. So basically,
yeah,
the one I just found was on the way up to the sky area again with the bird and whatnot, the Rito, and that one. Once I walked in, all I saw was a closed shut door.
Okay.
With no way of opening it.
Okay.
I literally just had to turn around and leave. I could not figure out how to open it. There was nothing there to open it. And like when I entered, it said something along the lines of like downward force.
Oh, I just did that one.
Yeah. Do you know what did you do? I'm guessing it's something you get after the sky area that I'm going to right now.
No, I think there's so you come across it's just the door in the middle, and then it's that whole wall, right? Of the things.
It's like a metal door in the center, and then it's just like walls stretching up as far as the eye can see. That sort of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I remember now because I was confused by that for a while. And I tried a lot, and then I realized that there's a switch on the other side of the gate, and you just shoot it with your bow and arrow.
I didn't see a switch at all.
Because it's the switch. It's like a weird looking switch.
Okay.
It looks like a. How do I describe it? It's just kind of like an orange glowing thing.
Okay.
It's not. It's
I
not like.
notice.
Yeah, the old games used to have a. Like, I don't know. You know, the switch used to look kind of orb like. Doesn't really look like that. It kind of just looks like like kind of
like a French fry. Is that thing?
Yeah, like an orange French fry. Yeah,
okay, all right,
orange glowing French fry.
That makes more sense. I did see that, but I was like, is that something I can grab? And I tried to grab it. I didn't try shooting at it. So, all right, that makes more sense.
It took me a while. And it's what I think. That's
I was so confused. I was like, what the fuck do I do here?
Yeah, and spoiler alert: you need to remember that for later in that dungeon or that shrine because you'll use it again.
Wonderful.
And I think I forgot about it again when that happened. And then it also happened again, I think, in the actual dungeon for that Rito area, where I came across it again and forgot that it was a switch again. And just, it happened a few times. Also, kind of just side thought with like the dungeons that I just remembered because you mentioned it. There was I've realized this with, I think, both dungeons now. Okay. So when you go into them, like, it just kind of like, you're in the dungeon, and you're like, oh, okay. So I guess the first one I went through, I started exploring around, and I'm like, I can't solve these puzzles. I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, I get to like an area, and I'm like, this very obviously seems like what the game wants me to do. But I'm like, I don't know how to interact with it. And I don't have anything that lets me interact with it. So I'm confused. I tried about everything to do it and I just couldn't figure it out. And then, so I went back to like the main area and there's kind of like those switches like you have like at the beginning of the shrines.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go into the dungeon, it obviously is like, hey, this is what you need to do. So like I didn't hit the switch. So I'm like, oh, it probably doesn't want me to hit the switch until I've complete what it wants me to do. But to trigger the beginning of the dungeon, you need to press that switch in both dungeons that I was in. Otherwise, it won't let you do those events that I was like I told you, I was solving those puzzles, and I'm like, why can't I interact with this very obvious thing that I need to interact with? That's why, because I did not go and do that first button and kind of start up the dungeon the way that it wants you to. Like with that first dungeon I was in, once I did that, I was able to finish it in 5 minutes because I already solved all the puzzles, and I just had to go back to where they were and just kind of doop doop doop. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I've been very happy like with how clever some of these puzzles are, and even too with the Ultra Hand. Like, there's so many different ways that you could address some of them. I saw a really cool trick on YouTube yesterday that I had not thought of, and I was like, "That's a really clever idea," because it's like, you get somewhere, and I used it to solve one of the puzzles that I was at, where it's like, hey, this was actually out in like the frozen area. It's like, hey, you have to get across this water. And they give you like a plank to do it. And obviously you could just, if you wanted to, attach a fan to it and float across the lake. That's a really easy way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw this YouTube video that gave me this really good idea and made it so I didn't have to use any tools to do it. And I felt so clever. Because what I did was I took the plank that was there, instead of turning it into a boat, I lifted it up in the air with the Ultra Hand and then set it down. And then I stood on top of it, used recall, and then recall pulled me up in the air, and I paraglided across.
That's smart.
Yeah, I was like, that's really clever. Did not think about using some of these abilities in tandem. So yeah, that's a pro tip, and it's very helpful because you can lift things up with that, and then kind of use it with your other abilities. The other thing I've seen people do with it too, is they'll lift things up and then they'll use ascend into like certain things that way. Like if it's a taller item, like what was it they saw? They stacked up a bunch of trees end to end, so it's like a really long structure. Lifted it up in the air, used recall. Then once it's up in the air, they used ascend to go all the way to the top of the structure they couldn't have gotten up to otherwise easily, and then flew off from there that way. I was like, oh, that's some wild shit.
So what I ended up doing with one thing is like very different from what I saw. There is a part is where I found the first tree that scared the ever living shit out of me, and essentially, what happened was, let me see if I can explain it. There was this area over to the right that was like very, very clearly, you need to build a boat here. You should build you a boat here. You need to build a boat here. That's what's going on here. And there was one of those little guys, the little Korok guys, the little fat ones. That's like, I need to go meet up with my friend who's on this random island and everything. And I put him on the mast of the boat, and then I crafted with the stick that was nearby and the other piece of wood. I fused them both together, and then I just like swang twice with that at the mast of the boat, which sent us hurling towards the island and everything. Oh god, what was it? I basically then used rewind and then replay, which was weird because then I was able to make it all the way across after I was able to do that, essentially. So I did do that one combination thing before, but that's like the only time I've really used the combining things. In fact, I keep forgetting that I have the ascend ability. So
I was going to say the same thing.
I know that every single time now, I've made it a note in my head. If I can't figure out something, Oh yeah, the ascend ability exists. That is like my new thing, essentially.
I ended up doing the dumbest workarounds. I wasted so much time because I forgot about the ascend ability.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and you'll see, like when you get to like some of the area that you're in now, but there's parts of that where you're very clearly supposed to use the ascend ability.
Oh no,
And
I'm already there. I'm already there.
oh,
That's
okay.
why I forgot about the ascend ability and was like, how the fuck do I do this? And I pulled up one video and it's like, all right, so now what you need to do is ascend. And I was like, oh yeah, I have that. And I immediately turned off the video and I was like, all right, now if I can't figure out something, I'm just gonna see if I can ascend somewhere. And that's what I've been following as my rule of thumb since then, and it has worked every single time.
Yeah, because I don't know why it's just such a foreign idea in that game, especially because it's like you got all this stamina, you can climb around all the places, you can do
Mm-hmm.
all the things, and it just kind of I think it's just you forget that it's just like hey, you also have this other awesome ability that lets you
Yeah,
do all this other stuff.
yeah.
Um,
I just keep forgetting it exists. Like literally, keep forgetting it exists. But
yeah,
now I'm doing better. I'm remembering now. So like I was at the part climbing up where there's the fish halfway up, like halfway up, where you there's a little pond of fish and you can kill all the fish and then cook them right there because there's also a piece of flint next to a cooking pot on the
uh-huh.
exact opposite side of the fish pond. So I literally got all the fish out, broke the flint underneath the cooking pot, lit the cooking pot, and then cooked all the fish. And then I was like, all right, so I could use the gust ability, or I could ascend to the top of this building and then use the gust ability, which will get me so much further across. And I was like, okay, good thing I remembered that now. Because I was able to skip over a bunch of those little eye things. You know what I'm talking about?
Little eye things.
The like the robots with the three eyes that
Oh yeah,
grab
yeah,
the
yeah,
things
yeah,
and
yeah.
combine them together, and like those motherfuckers can one shot you essentially.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was able to skip over so many of those because of that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I like this game so far. It's pretty good.
and I would even say too, like like I do agree, like it runs very well.
Hmm.
Like we were kind of talking about the was it last week they were talking about?
I don't think it runs very well. I
Oh,
I've
you
done
don't think so?
no, not at all. So that now a lot of other people have been talking about that. Like there's all these people that are like complaining about things like um Redfall, which runs like shit, obviously.
Hmm.
Or other games that also run quite poorly. But then you see 10 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't think that's fair at all, and neither do many, many, many other people. Is it a fantastic game so far? Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun to play. But it absolutely has many, many issues, especially when you like pull out the hand to start building things.
Hmm.
You'll notice it. Like now that I've mentioned it, just pay attention every single time you pull out your hand to start building things. The
Oh, I
frame
mean,
rate fucking tanked when it happened.
they mentioned that in the Digital Foundry review. They said it dropped down in the 20s sometimes, especially if you're in a very like big area. I mean, honestly, I don't. I'm not that creative, so I don't pull it out as often as I probably
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I've noticed a stutter a little bit with those. But otherwise, if you're out exploring and you're not using those abilities, like I've not
The
noticed
game's
really any
built
issues.
around those abilities. That's the problem. The game is built around those abilities. And if you start using them like the game wants you to, essentially, you will absolutely destroy the frame rate of the game. And it really sucks when it happens. It also happens when you like combine things. So for instance, when the bow and arrow what set was taken from the little bird guy that you're supposed to help and everything. You have to get back the bow. I pulled out my bow and then I added one of the eyes from those bats onto my bow. And when I
Oh yeah.
combined that together, then it like fused together. And during the fusing together, it was like, yep. Also frame rate gone for a second. It's like why? Why? It's just doing something very simple. Why is it doing that? I feel like the performance in this game is not like unacceptable, not like really bad, but it is bad enough that it is something that should be taken into account. Like it is not good. It's not good performance. It's okay, but it's not good.
Oh, I
Um
disagree. I mean, I know I'm less sensitive to it
Yeah.
than most people. So, take it as a great assault. But I mean, I would say it absolutely runs definitely smoother than Breath of the Wild did. And
no, absolutely not. No, it
you
doesn't.
think it's worse than Breath of the Wild?
Yes, absolutely.
No, I
Absolutely.
100% disagree.
Nope. This is way worse than Breath of the Wild.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, sir.
Absolutely.
But people should try it. I still think it runs well enough. I mean, I don't think it's anything that would hinder someone's enjoyment of the game.
All right, hold on. When you say you don't think it's worse than Breath of the Wild, are you comparing like the worst of Breath of the Wild? Like, for instance, when you take the Master Sword out of the pedestal, or are you just talking about like just general gameplay of Breath of the Wild?
I'm just saying, like, in general. If you remember, that
you're
game
wrong.
would stutter.
You're just straight up wrong.
The game
I'm sorry.
Breath of the Wild would stutter if you lit something on fire. You don't have that issue in this game.
It actually does even worse. It's not fire in this one, but if you do something like create steam, for instance, with a fireplace in a Helian pine cone, you get your stutter, you get your slowdown. If you do something like break a frozen piece of land by headlong diving straight into it, you get your slowdown. If you jump onto an ice cube to like break the top half of it and then go back up and jump down again, the particles that come off of said ice cube when you land causes you a slowdown. This game runs worse than Breath of the Wild.
I don't see it. I think that this game is far more solid, frame rate wise, than
I think you're more accepting because you're just used to it.
No, I said, I've never been shy about saying that, I am immune to a lot of frame rate issues.
Yeah.
So, listen, maybe someone who's more sensitive to it would be, more apt to notice it. But I mean, I noticed the frame rate issues pretty significantly in Breath of the Wild, and I don't feel like I noticed them as frequently.
Don't understand how you don't notice them here. They're really bad.
Like I said, some of it maybe I don't use the Ultra Hand or the Fuse ability that often.
See, that's the thing. Like, if you use those abilities, right, you will notice them. You will notice the slowdown a lot more often. Like, a lot more often if you use those abilities. If you use those abilities in a thunderstorm, it's fucking game over. You're gonna drop to like the teens. I'm just telling you right now. You will straight up drop into the teens if you use those abilities in a thunderstorm. And the more stuff you add on to when you're fusing things together, the worse it gets. And it's not good.
Honestly, now you mention it, I know they exist, but I don't think I've actually seen a thunderstorm yet since I've started playing this.
I've seen two, and both times I could very much tell that my frame rate was completely unacceptable in them. Like, it was very, very jarring. It was very much like it didn't even feel good playing the game during said thunderstorm. I tried to avoid thunderstorms at all points in times in this game.
And yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I know the weather's there. I just really have not seen too much of it. I do like some of the, I don't know how to say it without spoiling, so I might avoid this thought for now. I'll stew on this for this week. I'm sure I'll come back to it next week. But there is some things that they do as you progress the story that I think are kind of neat, but I'm not quite sure on my head how to say them without spoiling. So I will stew on it for this week. Not anything we need to talk about this week, because I'm sure we'll talk about this game more next week. It'll give us something else to talk about.
Yeah.
Is there any other like pressing things that I want to talk about with this game this week? We've already talked about it for quite a while.
Yeah.
So,
I do think, for the most part, I will say this. I do think for the most part, the frame rate is acceptable most of the time. But like when it's not acceptable, it's really not acceptable. Like it's borderline unplayable at points in times. I don't think there's any issues whatsoever inside of like buildings and that sort of thing.
I mean, inside the shrines, it's like spotless.
Yeah, it's spotless. It runs perfectly fine. I think a lot of the problems come from when you're combining things together, mostly. Like,
yeah, and that's what Digital Foundry seem to suggest
to destroy your frame rate.
Yeah, I did see a video yesterday where someone actually hit the max limit of like merging things together.
I see.
I think it was like 20 something trees
Hmm.
they attached together end to end.
That's a lot of trees.
Yeah, it's a lot of trees. And then they tried to like stand it up, but it fell apart. The physics didn't like it. But that is something that is like super interesting with this game. That just how they have all that kind of physics stuff there. The other thing that I kind of just, I guess maybe final thought for this week is I really like the more that I think about what they've been able to piece together in this game, I don't know what they do next. I just kind of like I don't know how they build on this. I'm sure there's ways that they could.
A
But
good point. Yeah.
like how do you keep on like topping what you've built here? It's kind of like, yeah, obviously you could add more dungeon stuff. You could bring back some more of the classic items and kind of, make them something that's there now too or whatever.
Maybe
But
they don't. Maybe they just drop the Breath of the Wild and make an actual Zelda game.
I just go back to like a more traditional style.
Mm-hmm.
And they could. I mean, obviously there's room for that.
There's definitely people that want that too. Like my other friend, who's like a huge Legend of Zelda fan. He was like, "Oh, Tears of the Kingdom's coming out, and I don't care, like at all, because like he likes, you know, original like Legend of Zelda. Like he was big Ocarina of Time, big Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, those sort of games. He really liked those games. He doesn't feel like Breath of the Wild is the sort of game that appeals to the original fan of those kind of games. Breath of the Wild has a very modernized feel to the point where it's like almost a fault. Because he's like, I don't like the fact that I can go anywhere and do anything because it makes the game feel directionless. And I don't like that element.
It's interesting that you're like the original Zelda fans, because I do feel like, and they mentioned this when they were talking about Breath of the Wild originally, but they were kind of like, the direction that they were inspired by the most for that game was the original
Zelda fans.
Which did let you go and do anything at any point, and you're just kind of like open to explore and
maybe I should say original like N64 GameCube Zelda fans more so. Like the ones that kind
Zelda
of
fans.
No, because modern Zelda fans now are Breath of the Wild fans. That's the thing. That's the problem. That's the games you and me are thinking are modern are not modern Zelda games anymore.
Well, I guess what would be a fancy term for the like, what would it be? Because I feel like for Earth, there's kind of like that, like,
I don't know, like boomer Zelda fans. Fuck if I know, do you?
No. Where it's kind of like, because it's like there's modern and there's neo-modern, and Breath of the Wild's more like neo-modern. But then I don't know. But it is. You do have like, because you do have like, that classic kind of Zelda, and that's kind of, I feel like that's maybe more what Breath of the Wild is. But then also too, don't forget, you have that other kind of people who want that more like top-down traditional Zelda.
I mean,
more like
probably linear Zelda. Maybe that's what we're looking for. Because like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, they're pretty linear games.
Yeah,
like there's a very, very obvious thing you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And Breath of the Wild is not, and neither is Tears of the Kingdom. I would say Tears of the Kingdom isn't even more so because of the abilities that you have with like, breaking things apart, putting things together, all that stuff.
Yeah, like I said, that's so kind of like, it opens the door to so many things that it's like, I'm almost surprised that Nintendo just didn't just take that idea and just make an entire game out of just that. Like I said, it's just like the amount of like stuff that they decided to cram into this game. It's like, well, how do you make whatever the next Zelda is? Like, what is the next core Zelda going to be? Because I have a really hard time wrapping my head around how you build off of this. And also too, just kind of, I don't know, nerdy Zelda stuff, because I don't know, I guess we're going to talk about this longer than I was expecting to. But there is there's some very interesting question as to where this falls in like the timeline kind of things. Because it does open some questions that had not existed before. And it's kind of like, is Zelda, rewriting its own timeline? Is it disregarding its timeline? Is it breaking off into like kind of like a reboot kind of thing? Like, is this like a reboot of the original Legend of Zelda? I don't know. Those questions aren't answered, but it's just kind of some of the things that people are positing about based on the events of this game. So, yeah. So, all right. That's all I have, I think, for Zelda this week. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'll have more thoughts next week when I put more time into it.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Yeah. All right. I guess talk about what else you've been playing.
Yeah, so this week was my streamiversary. So I played games that made me happy. Basically, that's it.
Yeah,
so
fair.
on my list, you will probably see, at least in our little Google Doc where we write our games down, you see that I wrote Jet Set Radio, and Jet Set Radio Future.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be asking, what? Why is this here twice? So I played for my streamiversary Jet Set Radio on a Dreamcast. On the original hardware, the original game, everything. Not a burn disc, not any of that shit. I didn't do that. I own the original copy of Jet Set Radio, which is called Jet Grind Radio in the United States because of copyright issues, supposedly. So I owned that, and I played that on Dreamcast. And it took me about 7.5 hours to finish it, start to finish, on Dreamcast. Right?
Okay.
I struggled very many a times because, as you may recall, the Dreamcast has one control stick.
Mm-hmm.
And the same trigger that you use to spray paint is the same trigger you use to center your camera instead.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Oh yeah, it was. It was kind of difficult. Granted, I enjoyed my time playing it because it was really cool to play with like the original hardware and all that stuff again. It was very, very neat. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the gameplay. I enjoyed the characters. I always enjoy Jet Set Radio. That's why one of the games I'm looking forward to most this year is Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which is supposed to be a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio. That comes on August. Now, Jet Set Radio, the original game, is kind of very basic, more or less. It's a game where you play as a street gang of punk kids who graffiti things and piss off the cops, essentially, as a way of expressing themselves. It's made up of beat, gum, and I can never remember the last person. What is your name? Not Korn, because Korn is in Future. So I don't ever play as them, so I don't fucking know his name. Is it Combo? No, Combo's hold on.
I just feel like you're talking about food now.
Yeah,
like
probably.
Corn, combos, Doritos.
It's not. Oh, Tab. Tab is his name.
Oh,
right? Tab is his name. And they have their own little hideout where they meet up and they do things, and they have rival gangs that they race against and do little things with, essentially. And it's good. It's good. Lots of fun. Very enjoyable. The music is fantastic, and I think that the music is a massive part of Jet Set Radio games. It feels like it's made specifically for the series, like all the music is. Even the songs that aren't from just the series actually fit. So in Chapter 2 of Jet Set Radio, you get to play as Combo and Cube. And that chapter takes place in the United States, as opposed to Tokyo. In the United States level, you have songs like Jurassic 5 and Dragula from Rob Zombie that play instead. And also the police / people that are hunting you down are a lot more violent in the United States areas. And the areas are way bigger. So one of them is basically Times Square. I think they call it Grind Square, and you're able to grind from rooftop to rooftop on these skyscrapers and everything. And it's really neat. It's really fun. It's a very difficult stage though, because eventually they call in like helicopters and shoot rockets at you and shit like that, because of course they do. I really had fun playing this game on Dreamcast, and I finished it all in one sitting. It took 7.5 hours, but I finished the whole game. After that, the next night, I played the HD remake, and I finished the entire game in 3 hours. The difference that the having a second control stick for this game makes cannot be overstated.
Okay.
Another reason that I played this game twice in 24 hours, like I beat it and played it twice in 24 hours, was we had this long conversation in a chat that I'm in, which was essentially, if something is replaced, such as music, and I specifically pointed to music because I knew they removed some songs from the original game. I thought they removed a lot of the songs and stuff from the United States stages for copyright reasons, like, because obviously when you go to do a remake later on down the line in HD, it might be a little bit difficult to get people like Rob Zombie to sign off on giving you the rights to his songs again.
Yeah.
But it actually didn't get removed. But I was almost convinced that it did, and it didn't. So I sat through and I played the HD version of the game, where I tried to see what was removed. And that was the conversation I had with someone beforehand. I was like, if you remove things that is from the original game, it kind of cheapens it or makes the HD version worse in cases, because you're missing content from the original game and it doesn't have the same feel. If they remove something like Rob Zombie, then it makes the American stage, where like you would hear like more, you know, American music feel kind of cheaper, even if they are replacing with something else that fits the same role, because of what you know was there before. And the person I was having this conversation with was like, I disagree. I think you could literally replace every single bit of music with something that's royalty free that feels the same, and it would be totally fine. And I was like, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to say about any game in general. And then he tried to prove his point by giving me this royalty free song that sounds exactly like Animal Crossing. And he was like, if we replaced Animal Crossing music with something like this, it would not make a difference. And I was like, I just don't see it. Like, yes, it has the same feel, but like, I don't know, I'm really heavy when it comes to like music and stuff, and I'm just like, I would like things to have its original content, essentially, because that's the way I remember it. Like, for instance, there is a remake of Katamari Damacy. We Love Katamari coming out this year, like next month actually, and I think if that music was replaced with something else, it would completely destroy the game, in my opinion. Like, because it's such it not iconic, obviously, because you need to have like people that are heavily invested into something for it to be iconic, but it does give the game such a feeling over anything else, like the Katamari music does, because there's nothing quite like it in any other form of media at all. Like, it's made for that game. And I feel the same way about the Jet Set Radio soundtrack. And that's why I was like, I think if you replace the music, it just would not have the same feel. And then I gave examples like other games that have, like, you know, tried to copy Jet Set Radio, or tried to copy Mega Man, or tried to copy what have you, or tried to copy just other themes of games, and they just fucking failed miserably, such as like Mighty Number 9, for instance. Even in some cases, the original Ukulele didn't have the same feel when it came to music as, like, you know, Rare music did. Like, Rare music from like Grant Kirkhope felt so much more alive than what we got with like Ukulele, even though I think he did some tracks for Ukulele. And that was kind of the conversation we were having. If you replace something like the music of a well-known game, so let's go to like Breath of the Wild, let's go to like Zelda. If you replace that music with something completely different, would it have the same feel? And would that be like a valid option to do to avoid like copyright stuff? Would you care if music was replaced, or would you even notice if it was replaced with something that's just like royalty free that sounds the same? That was the conversation we were having. And I told my friend essentially, I don't think you care about music or notice music enough that this is something that would affect you. But I think people that care about the like feel of something would definitely notice something like that. And I've been trying to talk with other people and see how they feel about it. Like take like your favorite game, whatever, and take like the music from that game. Let's just replace it with something completely sounding very much like the original composer, but it's just like royalty free music or some shit like that. Would it lose the feeling that the game initially had for you in general? Or
Well,
would you not care?
So I think it depends on what it is in the game. I mean, actually, I think we've actually kind of had this conversation before when we were talking about the remake for Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yes, yeah.
Because that is a game where they've already announced that you're like, hey, we're not going to be able to get the royalties,
Yeah.
For this music. So TBD. And I remember I said, I think, well, at least I feel like I remember I said in that conversation, and I may not have, I don't know, but at least this is how I feel currently. And it's that, like, I feel like a lot of that music in the game that may have needed, to be repurchased royalty wise, I wouldn't necessarily miss, except for one song. And that is, if they're going to pay up for any song, they better have Mickey in there, because I feel like without having that in that game, even if you got something with a similar feel, you're gonna lose some of what you had that was kind of cool, or at least maybe memorable with, that game. The kind of, whatever generic pop song or whatever, I could care less because that didn't stand out to me. But just kind of when you get your chainsaw whatever mode and you're going around slicing things to, oh Mickey, you're so fine. Like I feel like I would lose a lot of that from that game. So. Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the game and what songs we're talking about and what moments we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's another thing because it turned out I played through the HD remaster of Jet Set Radio and only one song was actually missing. And you know what? I couldn't even recognize which song was missing at the time because even after just playing through the Dreamcast version, literally within 24 hours of the other version. Yeah. I did not realize what version was missing. And they use that as like, aha, I got you. Like, you're not going to realize if one song is missing. And I was like, I don't think that's true, because someone's going to really like that song that's missing. And that song meant a lot to that person. It may not to me, but it meant to that person. And as such, they feel like they have an inherently worse experience because of the fact that that is gone. And that was like my entire point that I was trying to make. If something is missing from a remaster or remake or whatever, and at least from a music standpoint, if they have to like not be able to bring back a track or whatever, and it's just completely removed, I think that's going to cheapen the experience for people. Like, I think that makes it an inferior version of the game. As opposed to the original. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, but I do think that makes it an inferior version of the game if you're missing content from it. Like, no matter how small it is, if you're missing content from something and you're making a remake and that content is gone, someone who originally played that game is not going to be happy with what happened. And I just think when it comes down to it, if you can't get all of the content, then just don't do the remake. Don't do it, because you're not really remaking it. Then you're just kind of, putting it out.
Said, some of it depends on what it is. Like, we're talking.
It depends on what it is for you, right? Like, maybe people didn't like Mickey and they would rather have that replaced with something else. Yeah, but that's on a case by case basis. That's what that is in that kind of case. But in your case, you would feel like the game is inferior if Mickey was not in the game for Lollipop Chainsaw. And like, maybe the tracks that are actually removed, that was someone else's favorite track in the entire game, and that track's no longer there, and now they feel like it's an inferior game because of it. And that was kind of the entire point I was trying to get at. Like, so removing anything from a remake, from the original game, when you make a remake, cheapens the experience.
Well, I was trying to say, I think it depends on the type of game, too. Like, if we're talking, say, like, Rock Band, and, you have, like, hundreds of songs, and they just didn't pick one of your favorite songs, maybe even your favorite song of the game. I don't think it necessarily invalidates the entire game. in that case. It's just kind of like, that sucks. Maybe they'll add it as DLC, just to kind of get that royalty money or whatever. So maybe for something like that, wouldn't matter as much as, say, like if they remade Super Mario Brothers and got rid of the classic da 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 da. Like, like if they, some of it does depend on the context. And I do agree that, like, even if you're talking about, like, maybe it is someone's favorite song, obviously the weight that it's gonna play,
is
in
different
terms of
depending on the
remakes, gonna be
person.
different. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll replace Mickey and they'll replace it with something that's way more banging, and I enjoy it more. Who knows? I don't know. But just kind of like looking at it through this glass window, I'd be, like I said, I'm kind of inclined to say that, it depends on the game. And there are some games too where, like, like, say, like something like Smash Brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like 1.5 billion songs in there. And if they had just gone,
you may not even notice it.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
someone's going to notice it.
Yeah, be like, where's One Wing Angel? Like, yeah, okay, there's like 10,000 million other songs there. You might, whatever. But at the end of the day, that is, like, the music is not, for a game like that, where the music's kind of random and the stages are kind of random. And honestly, there's songs in that game that I have never heard in that game.
Yeah.
You may never notice it. They may not ever be a thing. So it really kind of depends. I feel like you're going to notice it more with, like, story games.
It's funny that you mention Rock Band, because I feel like that's probably one of the best examples, and I feel like you took it the complete opposite direction than what I would. I think a game that's a rhythm game would live and die by its music being removed. Like, if they were to remake the original Rock Band right now, right now, and they didn't have the original tracks for the game, I do think that would be a huge deal. That would be a massive deal. Like, imagine something like Guitar Hero 3, right? And they don't have Through the Fire and Flames. That would just completely invalidate it from being Guitar Hero 3, in my opinion.
I think
completely invalidate it.
You think about something like that, though. Like, you never I mean, who knows? Anything is possible, I suppose. But just because of the nature of the game and the everything that goes into it on the back end of things, royalty wise, and getting songs together, like, you're never really going to get a remake of those games. It would be like, hey, new Guitar Hero or something.
Yeah.
It would be like, hey, here's an amalgamation of songs. Hey, we got most of the songs from Guitar Hero 1, but they're never going to call it a remake of Guitar Hero 1.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a weird, like, middle ground thing, because it's like they're never going to remake those games. I don't know if you know what I mean, but yeah, it's just kind of like
no, I understand what you're saying. Like, they would just do like some kind of like compilation, essentially. They wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this is a Rock Band remake. They'd be like, I don't know, like Rock Band remix or something. Like, that'd be like the title or whatever.
Rock Band greatest hits. And it's like,
exactly.
Just like, some of like artists' greatest hits albums. It's like, hey, my favorite song's not on there, and it was one of their greatest hits. And it's just kind of like a shrug their shoulders. Like Queen, I feel like Queen's greatest hits CD has some great songs on it, but then there's just some weird ones that are just kind of like, why isn't that on?
Why is this there? And it's like, we need to fill space. Because we couldn't get the right,
but we didn't want to fill it with this one, and that's just kind of like whatever. So you just kind of get weird stuff like that too. But I do agree 100%. The music is an integral part of, like, the remake experience, and a track may or may not break or make that experience for someone. But I think a lot of it, at least on my end, and I imagine, it depends on the person, but a lot of it's going to depend on what game it is, what song it is, what context is you're being taken out of. Was it a very, like, monumental moment, or is it kind of a trivial thing? Is it a song that I actually may have heard during the course of the game, or is it a song I may have never actually heard during the course of the game? What genre is it? Like, there's so many different pieces of that puzzle that really come down to, how many fucks do I give? It really depends.
That actually brings me to my next point, which goes into my next game, which is Jet Set Radio Future. This game has never been remade. It can't be remade. There's one specific reason why it can't be remade, and I mentioned this, and this also led into the discussion that I was just having with you. This game can't be remade because of the fact that a lot of the music that was used in Jet Set Radio Future is actually from a now defunct record label that was owned by the Beastie Boys. So there was a lot of indie bands that were owned by the Beastie Boys record label, but that record label went tits up and completely is gone. Like all the music that was on that label is just lost to the ethos, and it's not really sure who owns this, that, and the other. And a lot of songs from that label are on Jet Set Radio Future. In fact, a lot of iconic songs from Jet Set Radio Future are on that label and can't be released in a remake. That's why it's believed that Jet Set Radio Future has not gotten a remake, but the original one did get a remake, essentially. And my thoughts was, if you can't get all of it, then don't make a remake. That was what I essentially said. So, but my friend was like, well, so you'd rather have nothing than have some stuff missing that you may not even notice? And I'm like, yes, I would actually rather have no remake than someone half-ass it. And that was my main point, essentially. And that also started with Mother 3, because we were talking about Nintendo not bringing things over, such as like Captain Rainbow, and I brought up Mother 3, and I was like, yeah, they can't ever bring over Mother 3 because of the content in it, and because of this, that, and the other, and whatnot, that may not be suitable and may be seen as offensive now. And they're like, well, just change it. Just change the stuff that would be seen as offensive. Completely remove that character out, or change the way that character looks. And I'm like, no, don't do that, because that ruins the artist's like intention of the way the characters were originally. That ruins like their story and the way people react to them. I'm talking about the little like the fairy people. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Those people.
I do. You're talking about
exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like saying like, don't do that. Just, if you're not going to be able to release the game, or you're going to be able to release the game, but you're going to greatly change up content because of, you know, predetermined notions in modern society, then just don't release the game. I just don't care. I would rather you do not release it, or not localize it, than completely fucking butcher something. And then they were like, well, why not just have them change the thing? And I'm like, I don't want the original vision of something changed for like modern sensibilities. I do not care if it's now seen by some people as this is a thing that might be offensive to some, or this might be considered that, or this might not be okay with the way this character is designed. I don't want you to change what was originally made for the game. I don't want you to like rewrite what was in the game originally. I don't like the like revisionist sort of thing that people are going through and doing with a lot of content now. And that was another thing that I brought up essentially. And I don't know how you feel, because you really like Mother 3, like a lot. How would you feel if something like that was done and that was the only way it could be localized?
So strangely, I actually think it might be more relevant of a topic in the game now. I feel like it might be more of a generally accepted story if it came out now, as opposed to, what was it, 2005 or whatever, when it was actually finished.
It 5? When was this? I thought it was later than that.
Might have been a little bit later.
Mother 3 release.
I think Mother 3 released on the Game Boy in Japan in 2003.
2006.
Is that when it released in Japan, or is that when the translation was
Japan, April 12th, 2006.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I still wasn't like terribly far off.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the change in sensibilities for a lot of topics in America since 2006. A lot of things have gotten more accepted widely over that last almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think that, if you were going to go through and do like a pure translation of that game, I think that, it might be more acceptable now. But that really isn't answering your question. And I'm just kind of saying like, oh, the issues that were in that game, maybe sometimes you could wait until it's, maybe a more accepted topic. That's always obviously not always going to be the case for some things. Because some games are going to have things that are going to get, less accepted over time. Like maybe some of the creepy bathing suit stuff that some Japanese games have. Yeah. You kind of go in the other way. But I think it depends on how they want to address it and, what kind of changes they're proposing. So, like, if we're going to stay on the topic of Mother 3. You know, if they were going to go through, and change like sprites and, you know, maybe do something like that,
Mhm.
I don't think I would be behind that. I think that would be changing the vision.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Yeah.
specifically like changing sprites, the way characters look, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Those kind of things, I don't think I would be behind. You know, there are things like with Japanese games where it's like, I think it was Fire Emblem, not Fire Emblem. What was the Fire Emblem Persona game called?
Sharp FE,
Yep.
something.
We're like on the verge of it.
Yeah. Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yes, there we
There
go.
you
Tokyo
go.
Mirage Sessions.
Mhm.
So, you know, if we're talking about something like that, and it's like, you know, they're talking about making the clothes that they're wearing more appropriate by coloring in some of the dress or whatever, so it's not Skinner anymore.
Mhm.
That's fine. I really could care less about that. That doesn't bug me. You know, whatever. If you're going to make their clothes a little bit more appropriate, okay, that's fine. You're not really changing what they're trying to convey there. With the magpies, though, you know, you're talking about. I think that was called. They're called magpies, magbees. I don't remember, something like that.
I mag something.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. Also,
Yeah, you know, you talk about changing the sprites. I mean, I wouldn't get behind that. If you were going to maybe change the dialogue to soften it up a bit more, but convey kind of the same message to some degree, I'm fine with that. I think that's kind of maybe more like a reasonable approach to it, because, you know, it depends on. But if you're going to wildly change the dialogue, so it's something completely different, then, you know, maybe not so that. I guess it depends on kind of like what degree of changes you're trying to make as well. I mean, it really is situational. You know, it depends on what it is. Like I remember the Tokyo Mirage Session localization changes there. You know, like I said, they colored in some of the clothes, and they kind of like they toned down some of the sexual overtones and some of like the creepier kind of pedophilia ways to make it kind of more.
So I have a hot take on that, which is there was nothing wrong with it, and it actually kind of lessened the experience because a lot of the stuff had to do with like idol culture. And idol culture in Japan is very creepy in general, and it kind of showing off that creepiness really, really kind of hammered home the whole idol culture sort of thing for the Japanese. Like, it's not good. Idol culture is not good in Japan. It's really not. They exploit those people quite a bit, and I actually thought that they were kind of trying to make some sort of statement on that in some cases, and by like being like, okay, let's just remove it, and it kind of lessened.
But they did. But that's
general.
the thing, though. They did remove it. They just kind of and I'll say they changed it, but I having played it. And I remember we discussed this kind of back when it was happening. Having played it and having kind of like compared what was, you know, read about what was originally in the game and kind of like what context the change was made in localization. I don't think they strayed away from that message that you're talking about.
Okay.
They're still talking. Idol culture is creepy.
Yeah.
But they kind of took out the like very direct kind of pedophilia aspect of it and kind of replaced it with a implied kind of gross like interactions between these people without, you know, maybe necessarily directly having to say it. The implication is still there, and it's still creepy, and I think your takeaway message is going to be the same either way.
Okay.
It's just, you know, for the people reading it, it's like you don't need to, you know, you're left to draw a little bit more to your imagination as to have it actually spelled out, which I think, depending on the thing too, sometimes that's better. You know, there are definitely, I don't know, kind of sub thoughts. You know, there are movies where it's like, you know, the ending sometimes is better if things aren't necessarily always spelled out for you, and it's, you know, sometimes, you know, creepier, or, you know, left more to the imagination by not necessarily, you know, explaining A, B, and C. Like I said, I think it's kind of one of those, you know, maybe people will disagree, you know, because I know there definitely is like a very purist, like, you know, I want it localized exactly how it was, you know, in the Japanese context. But
and yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. People that are like, yeah, I'm not going to support this because it's not done the same way that it originally was, and I don't think those people, as pointed out by other people, are like, oh well, then you're just a pervert because you don't want you you want that sort of stuff. And it's like, it's not necessarily that someone actually wants like that stuff. They just want the like
The
more
original
hammer
vision.
home, yeah, the original vision, like what the artist originally had in mind,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And that
And
doesn't
it's
make them
reasonable.
a bad person. And I think that's a reasonable take to have in general.
Yeah,
When it
but
comes
I
to
would
things like that.
also, my counterpoint to that would always be,
Mhm.
I think, even into some degree, if you're going to talk about like, the kind of purist aspect of it,
Yeah.
anytime something's localized, anytime,
Yes.
you're losing something.
Yes, you
It's
are.
never going to 100% match that vision. Obviously some localizer is going to be better than others,
Mhm.
but there's just inherent differences between the languages.
Yeah.
And that leaves localizers to make some interpretation. I mean, we see it all the time with like even simple things. I remember like a couple weeks ago we were talking about a quote from Nintendo where they were talking about, I think it was, what was it? Was it the next Switch maybe? Where they were like, there's no new hardware
Yeah,
coming
there's no
out
new
this year.
hardware coming out.
And
Yeah,
it
and
was
it was
like
just it's like kind of a mistranslation because they're like saying something else, and that's
yeah.
the way this person translated it.
Is
And
it like the
there's a lot of
interpretation that there's no,
misconceptions when it comes to translating things in
yeah,
general.
and
But I
people
think
have to
there's a
kind of fill in
difference
those
between
blanks.
like misconceptions and translations and revisionist, revisionism in translations, like changing something completely. Like that happens a lot. I feel. Not necessarily in this case, because you are right. It does maintain the same feel with Tokyo Mirage Sessions as the original intended. Far less creepy. So I do think it does kind of water down that aspect of it in a way, because it's meant to be like jarring. That's the reason why it was rated M in the first place initially. It was supposed to be creepy, and stuff like that happens also in games like Persona 5, for instance. They want one of the main characters to do like nude modeling essentially,
Yeah,
and the only way to be able to you know what I'm talking about with Anne
yeah.
and whatnot, that sort of thing. And that was left intact. So when something like that is left intact, which is the same feeling I feel as a lot of the things that happened in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I don't understand why that is okay, and it's the same age, but it's not okay with something like Mirage Sessions. Other than, I'm guessing, just Nintendo in general was probably
Nintendo,
the reason for it.
at least in the way that if I remember the way that localization went down, there was some like more formal commentary on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually said it was the decision of, what's the other company?
Atlas.
Yeah, it was
That's
more on their
that's
end.
so weird because, like, for instance, you have played Persona 5, and you know
Yeah.
how very much something like that is also an element of Persona 5 in general as well. Like, the weird elements that could be seen as like, uh, I don't know. I don't know what really to say about it, because I don't know, icky, nasty,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But they're done as a way of really showing just how like fucked up shit is in general, with adults. Like, I mean, even the Komashita, I guess that was his name, the
Oh
teacher
yeah, yeah.
in the
Hmm.
first chapter. Yeah, that guy. That was fucked up. That entire chapter was fucked up.
Hmm.
But we still kept something like that in. And like, yeah, I don't know. That's why I feel like there had to be something else going on. There had to be something that Nintendo had a hand in with that, because it doesn't make sense to release the two almost around the same time, and like, one is totally fine and the other one isn't.
Well, some of it might be, like maybe Atlas looked at the Wii U and was like, maybe this isn't the market that we thought it was. Or
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
maybe when it came out in Japan, maybe there was player feedback and they just weren't totally thrilled with it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of different factors that could have gone into it,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe weighed on it. And, obviously, you just have a handful of localizers that are kind of doing things, and, it could ultimately be the decision of, one of them too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who was it? There was one localizer that I was just reading a story about not that long ago, where they basically like they were given like no oversight from the local, like the company they were localizing for, and they
Mm-hmm.
kind of went crazy. And after a couple games, they kind of had to be reined back in, because they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, you're really not doing what we want you to be doing here. You're kind of just doing whatever you want." And you've done a great job with it because people are happy with the localization, but we kind of want you to rein it in and pull it back to like our original vision. So it does kind of you get like so localization is an interesting process, and it really depends on the team. And like I said, just because of the inherent differences between languages, you are going to have some sort of lost in translation telephone kind of game, especially when you're talking about things too like I would imagine, at least some of the stories I've heard about, like say Pokemon, for example, because you would get some weird things like the way Pokemon used to be localized was localized from Japan to America in English, and then it was localized into other languages from there, and then maybe some other languages from those, and so you kind of would get some like weird like this isn't quite what it said in the Japanese one because maybe someone in the English would take some liberties, and maybe someone in the Europe would take some liberties, and all of a sudden you got something that's a little bit different than what it originally was. So yeah, I mean it's all an interesting process, and some of it has to do with, like I said, the localizer and just kind of like how they want to. I don't know. I guess in my head I kind of imagine it like that part in Jurassic Park where they're like, and we took some DNA of the frog to fill in the gaps, and that's just kind of what they're doing with words, and they're like, okay, well, that might not be the original context, or even other examples where you kind of run into it, and I don't think it's as much as an issue now, but I'm sure there's still games that run into it, where it's like you run into space restrictions. And I was just reading about something with one of the Fire Emblems. I was either the GameCube or the Wii one, where they had translated a less dense version of the game. Like the game apparently had two different sets of dialogue, like kind of like a much more dense story version, and then kind of like a less dense, maybe almost casual version. And they had decided to translate that because the issue was more they only had so many. Because Japanese, a lot of it's symbols, so you can fit a lot more on the screen in the same text.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they ran into an issue where it's like they only had so many text boxes and so much room. So they were like, well, I guess we'll just translate the smaller story because we can fit that into the same size text box, as opposed to.
I don't feel like that would be a problem now, though, like at all.
Like I imagine it probably depends on the game and how it's built. I think if they don't take something like that into account beforehand, it's probably an issue. But I feel like more so these days, they're just more aware of it. So I think it's less of an issue than it used to be.
Okay.
But I mean, the game I'm talking about was, like Wii GameCube game.
Yeah,
so,
no, that I totally understand.
Yeah.
But like, even like looking at the Switch now, I don't think that that's an issue, especially when you have like huge games releasing on the Switch. Nowadays,
like stuff like Tears of the Kingdom and like Pokemon. Like I'm sure they're very well aware that you're gonna need more stuff between systems or whatever. But like I said, I'm sure like maybe like some smaller ones or maybe some third party studios you might not have necessarily thought to take that step.
Yeah,
originally, and maybe more so even on something that they maybe didn't think was going to get localized and then eventually did for whatever reason. So yeah, it's just that. I mean, I guess if we're talking about just kind of like the truths of localization, like I'm sure there definitely was a factor in the older days, and maybe still has some. Pokemon, I think even from the original translation, that's kind of where some of the oddities came from too. Because you can fit a lot more on a text box than like a small Game Boy screen, but then when you're trying to convert it to English, and you're kind of like, I only have so much space, and then it's like you got to get a little bit more creative with the way that you're describing things. So.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So I don't know. The moral of the story is really depends on the game and what's going on. Like, because I guess there's just a lot of different ways that you can approach it. And I guess, like for me, I just kind of hope that like I said, I guess I look at it realistically. Like, nothing's going to be 100% just because. Yeah. But you kind of just hope that they try to stick to the vision as closely as they can. Yeah, and try not to stray too much from that. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's my two thoughts on your question. I feel like I spent a really long time talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a lot to unpack there, just in general. So, yeah.
No, there is. Especially like as I started talking about, is like you think about all these different kind of scenarios where it could go. different
Yeah.
ways, but it's kind of maybe more accepted because of the situation that kind of led to why it happened. And like I said, eventually we're going to see as time goes on, you're going to see stuff like Mother 3, like those situations. As time goes on, I feel like that game is more likely to get a re-release because I feel like that content is going to get more accepted publicly. But like, there's going to be some games where as
I
time goes
feel
on,
like
they'll be a
if
bit like,
Mother 3 gets a re-release, right?
mm-hmm,
I do feel like the Magi, whatever those
mm-hmm,
guys, I do think they will change their sprites to not appear offensive to like people. Because I think that the way that those people are portrayed in
mm-hmm.
the game in general could be seen as offensive to like cross dressers or like trans people in general. Because it's like a very old timey look at those kind of people in with the way the sprites are designed and the way the characters are designed. And I do
Mm-hmm.
think that if that game does get, yeah, I
Oh,
do feel like if anything does happen, they will probably change up their sprites as to not be portrayed or seen as offensive. I do
honestly,
think that would happen.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Although I always kind of like my mental thought on those
Hmm.
games is I feel like we will see them someday. But I
Hmm.
honestly, I kind of feel like that's those games,
Hmm.
the Earthbound like trilogy,
Yeah.
is more likely to be remade and released internationally.
Ah, okay.
And I think that we'll get an opportunity to address more of those issues that way. Because I
Mm.
think changing the art style. I mean, not like draft. I mean, think more like a Link's Awakening style, like upgrade.
Yeah.
I think that would do a lot for a lot of those questions about like how something looks. I mean, Game Boy looks great, but there still leaves a lot to the imagination in terms of what the intentions are sometimes.
Hmm.
Kind of like how many people were confused if Diglett had a nose or a mouth.
Yeah.
Some that just kind of it's hard to tell with sprites, so you don't really always know exactly what the intention is for
So,
something that's
so
small.
I actually do think we know what the intention was because the way their sprites are designed.
Mhm.
Another thing that's very popular in Japan
Mhm.
is One Piece. You probably, even though you've never seen One Piece, you probably know of One Piece's existence
Mhm.
because it has like a billion episodes essentially,
Yeah.
and it's like the thing that people like to make fun of. There are a group of characters that are very much like those people, and in Japan there's actually a term for it. I cannot remember what it is, but it is like an actual term, and it is like a specific design and just like style that they see cross dressers as, and they do a lot of characters in that sort of design if they are meant to be that way. And that design is the same design that the Magi or whatever the correct their name is follow.
Magypsies. I looked it up while
Gypsies,
we were
yes,
talking. Yeah.
it is the same design, and the way that they did the like the clothes and the eyes and the hair and like the buffness and all that stuff for different characters of the Magypsies, they are designed the exact same way as what this term is that I cannot remember. It's like a very specific Japanese thing, and it is like essentially the way they see all people that are cross dressers or that sort of thing. Like
Mhm.
it's not necessarily actually offensive. It's part of their culture, but like it could be seen as offensive for showing that as a way to differentiate all kinds of people like that. So like what is not offensive to the Japanese would probably be seen offensive to like an American audience, which is part of the reason why I do think that has not ever been translated, because it would be seen as offensive. It's kind of like a stereotype. It would be seen as a stereotype in America, whereas in Japan it is literally like a a design philosophy that they use for all people of that type. So yes, it would be a stereotype, but for them it's more of like an actual thing that people do. Like people that do like cross dress and everything, they do have a specific way that they do so in Japan sometimes. And then sometimes people like to do things like, take for instance here with like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, how people will cross dress as characters and this, that, and the other, and they have a very specific style that they dress up in. That's the kind of thing that the Japanese do for just in general cross dressing sometimes when they have this specific style But that style being translated to Americans would be seen as offensive. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. And I wish I could remember what it was. It's like Okada, something. It's like I saw it a while back, and I do not remember what it is. Let's see. I don't know. I still can't find it. I don't know. I really don't know. But I do remember it being something when I originally had looked into like Mother 3, and part of the reason why people think that it wouldn't be localized was because of that specific reason. Damn, I wish I could remember what it was called. I feel like it was in a video I saw, but like that, God knows how long ago that shit was. Maybe if I just search Mother.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I think I actually found the video. Okama is the theme in Japanese media. Okama. Okama. Meaning, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Okama is apparently some people say it's like a slang term for gay men, but other people say it's just like a general like character design.
Yeah.
And then other people say it's seen as a cultural thing, and other people say it's like a stereotype, but either way, it's like the exact same style as the Magypsies in Mother 3. And that's, yeah. There it is. That's it. That's what I was trying to remember. Let's move on from that. But I do want to mention, I do feel that if music was removed from Jet Set Radio, I would greatly hinder the experience. It would make me quite upset. All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to say about that. I love the music of Jet Set Radio, and Future as well. Let's talk about news, because there's actually news.
Oh yeah, what news do you have?
Oh shit, I thought you had news. I had one. I had one. I gotta find it.
There's no news.
No, there is. There's news. There's news. The UK, not the EU. Or maybe it was the other way around.
No, the EU. Yeah, because the UK said no to Microsoft.
And the EU said no. Yeah, you could actually do it this way. That was one of the things I remember seeing.
Yeah, the EU approved the thing. I mean, it still doesn't change anything because obviously the UK is gonna hold it up, but that just means it's like what's gonna happen if the rest of the world's okay with it? And it's just the UK. I mean, theoretically, Microsoft could just stop doing business there. That's one of the options that they have. I don't think that's realistic. A lot of people are tossing around that idea, like, well, Microsoft would just not do business there. I mean, it's still a big market. It'd be crazy not to. And it'd be really funny if they were just like, hey, sorry, British people, you can't play Call of Duty because, whatever, we're not going to do business there. So, I mean, I don't think that's a feasible option. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think every time you have another acceptance of it, it's just going to kind of, prolong the amount of time that, this stays in the news. Maybe with the other, entities approving it, maybe that will look more favorable for Microsoft when they get to the appeals process and be like, hey, we passed the approval process in every place except for here. So, maybe we should reevaluate this, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure how it's going to pay out and, what the trade-off there is going to be. So, I don't know. Oh, no, that was you.
I posted the picture because my friend finally posted his picture of his character. He has not even gone to the first, like, Sky Dungeon area or done anything, and this is what his character looks like. And he has, like, the actual iconic Zelda shield. Just there. He found it while exploring.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Yeah, but no, it was it the UK or the EU? EU was the one that said, yeah, we agree, that's okay, you can do that. And then the
EU
UK
just
was
approved the deal.
Okay, all right.
UK was the one a couple weeks ago.
EU said, here's a way that Microsoft could do exactly what you're asking for, UK, but and it would solve all the problems. So why were you not able to find a way to solve the issues you were talking about? Like, we figured it out in, like, days. And, like, essentially after that, they were just like, yeah, we still disagree. Like the reason why the UK had originally said, yeah, we're not doing that. We can't do that is because of the stranglehold that Microsoft would have on the
Cloud gaming.
cloud market. And then like the EU was like, okay, well, here's a way to fix it. You said you couldn't think of a way to fix it, but here's one that's very easy and how you do it. And then like quite literally after they had written up their entire thing on why they are accepting it and letting it go through, the UK was like, yeah, I still ain't gonna do it. Like they were like super petty about it. Like they were just like, I don't care. It's like, really? So if you don't care and someone's found a solution to the problem that you mentioned, there is no problem anymore. So why are you still being a stubborn little bitch, essentially?
Yeah. I think it's kind of one of those ones. I think where the place that they put them in, I think they have to wait for it to go to court now. And they can't just like be like, oh, we changed our minds on this. Like I think they kind of have to. They have to give themselves.
I think they're just petty. I really think the CMA is just petty.
It could be.
Like they're so full of themselves that they think they're right and no one else is. Even when everyone else is like, you're wrong. Here's how the problem can be solved. And here's how the problem could be solved and be made better for everyone else. Like everyone, not just Microsoft, but like Sony, Nintendo, literally everyone makes out like a bandit from this deal if it goes through this way and if this regulation is put in place. And then, like, here comes the UK being like, yeah, I still ain't gonna do it. We still said no, so it doesn't matter. And it's like, you're acting like a fucking child.
Yeah, I think it's... I mean, I do think Microsoft will probably eventually find a way to make this deal work. I don't think that the UK deal, or the UK thing alone is gonna end up holding them up in the long run. I think they'll probably end up having to make some sort of concession.
So one of the concessions was essentially that they'd be able to have like the one that the EU had brought up was like through cloud streaming, they'd be able to also release on like PlayStation Plus and their service. So it's like you have the option of the Xbox service through Game Pass and also the PlayStation service through PS Plus. And they had found some way to like legitimize that and allow that so that it could be released in tandem so multiple consoles could have their choice of which way they did the cloud gaming aspect of things. And it would allow for either system user to be able to have that choice, essentially. I didn't read into everything, but like the EU had found some way to do it, and I don't exactly know what it was. But yeah. And if you have that option of PS Plus or Xbox Game Pass, if you have those options, what's the problem? There isn't one anymore.
No.
So
but we'll see. I mean, I guess it really would pull to light, Microsoft's true intentions and what limits would be put on them with that. Because you think about it, for them to, spend all this money acquiring Activision and then basically having to give away their games for free to everyone, that kind of does limit I would say, their motivation to complete the sale. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon. This is going to be ongoing for millennia to come.
Okay, so I got one other news story, and this is the one I was trying to remember. Sega is the latest publisher that is considering $70 game price tags.
Oh, that is new.
And I think this is pretty fucked up, because looking at everything that Sega has released lately, I don't think any of it deserves to be $70.
I was going to say, and I really don't want to spin this into a long discussion, because we've already, had a pretty long episode. But maybe food for thought to kind of think on for next episode when Tears of the Kingdom comes back in.
Why is it $70?
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say I think Nintendo may have justified the $70 for it. So stew on it. We're not going to talk about it now. I don't want to talk about it this week.
It'll depend on how long it takes me to finish this game.
Yeah.
If it's justified and that sort of thing. I don't know. The thing is, like, if you're using the same engine, right? I'm just going to do like a little caveat before we sign off. If you're using the same engine, you haven't rebuilt a completely new engine, you already are doing it with an established franchise, you're already doing it on a current, like not even a current gen console, but a last gen console. Because, I mean, as even though it's the newest thing that Nintendo has, the Switch is outdated by many years, and it was outdated when it released. You don't need the extra technology to build on those games. You don't need the extra funds to put into said games when making them, because you already have everything that you need. When it comes to something like Returnal, when it comes to something like Ratchet and Clank, you're dealing with new technology, like a new console. You're dealing with like new graphics hardware and maintaining that and that sort of thing. And like the technology that's used now to like build those kind of games is super fucking expensive, and it takes a long time to get all that shit down and working correctly, and that is kind of understandable when it comes to something like that, having to spend shit tons of money to even be able to create the game in general, and then having new technology like ray tracing and stuff like that built into those games on the next gen hardware. I understand the prices of games that are like that, but I don't understand things like fucking Redfall. Redfall does not deserve to be fucking $70, but I understand when it comes to something that's like using current technology, even using technology that isn't the norm yet. But when you have something like an old engine being used on an old system from 2017, I don't understand the reason why you make your game $70. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So, I mean, I would, kind of just to kind of counterpoint what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. You're going to say there's a lot of content there, and that's the reason why it's valid. And then I'll point you in the direction of Persona 5, which just re-released, that was $60 and is 200 hours long. If you do everything. Okay, why wasn't that $70?
So, well, okay, well, we're not going to counterpoint with that one right there. But, we're talking about, like, if you talk about something like, I think it's almost like comparing apples and oranges when if we're talking about like the amount of time it takes to beat, something like Persona. Persona is a deep story game, and a lot of that time is going to be spent on the story. But if you talk about the amount of content that's explorable and puzzle based, and then you talk about like basically the infinite building system that's the Ultra Hand, and the amount of time that goes into that, and no less making that game pretty functional with all the different systems they have overlapping in there. I think there's a case to be made there. But I said, I don't want to go too crazy into this game there right now.
Minecraft exists. I mean, Dreams exist. That was a $40 title. That allows you to create entire video games inside of it.
But the big difference with Dreams would be that actually in both of those cases, you have those mechanics there. But you don't have the underlying story aspect underneath it to the same degree that Tears of the Kingdom has. Like, it gives you the tools to make incredible things. I don't disagree. But it doesn't have those other, that other foundation below it. Let's talk about this next week.
Yeah, we're gonna stew on this and talk on it. I think we did.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this next week, because I don't think this is a fair point at all, because you're just talking about like gameplay mechanics. You don't need more money to make gameplay mechanics.
Oh, yes, you do.
When it's, no, you don't.
Oh, yes, you do. Like, I guarantee. Well, I mean, if we're even talking about, like, because you're like, oh, Ratchet and Clank, so much technology's there.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking like a core gameplay of like maybe 11 hours to complete versus 30 plus hours for Zelda. And I would even say like, okay, you're talking about different levels of technology. What's the difference in like the amount of man hours that were put between the two games? Look, I think that's we'll have to look more into that. I imagine that Zelda probably had a larger team for a larger amount of time.
We'll figure this out. I think I understand where you're coming from, but I think you're looking at it from the wrong point of view. And I'll formulate my thoughts and come back with that next week.
I guess my kind of angle with this is, more of, we use graphics to justify price points a lot of times. But I feel like that's almost a falsehood sometimes. It's like, okay, yeah, there is.
It's 100% a falsehood, but that's what everyone says is the reason. Technology. So that's the reason why I was going with graphics, because a higher fidelity game that requires more graphics and that sort of thing.
And that's what a lot of the the publishers use justification.
Horsepower. That's what they use. That was the reason why I was coming with that. Yeah. So I was coming at Zelda from that angle, because that's the justification a lot of people use. There has been no justification given for why Tears of the Kingdom is $70 whatsoever. Period.
And my guess is it's going to be more of just the sheer amount of content and the amount of systems that they have in there, along with, I mean, let's be honest, pretty flawlessly running game in terms of like bugs. Like, I have not had any crashes. Have you?
No, I've not had any crashes.
Yeah. And just if you think about something like we always come back to
so the fact that the game works justifies $70. I
didn't
think
say
that's
that.
fair.
I didn't say the fact that it works. But you know what I mean? Like, the more systems that you have in play in a game at any given time, the less likely it is to be stable.
I feel like there's games that also have more systems, right, to them.
Like what?
Very much so. Like, I have to think on it. But
Yeah.
I know that they're there. But I feel like there are other games that have more systems added to them as well, that are like the sum of moving parts, that when you put all those together, like even those games you'll find for like $40, which is like way less than what we're paying for something like Tears of the Kingdom. Well, and I also feel like several like indie titles have done the same thing that Tears of the Kingdom has done, or like even better in some cases.
But, it's kind of those, like, some of the parts kind of thing. Like, you mentioned Dreams. Like, oh my goodness, we're not going to get off this conversation.
We need to.
I know we need to. But you mentioned Dreams, and it's kind of like, well, I don't disagree. Like, you can do more with Dreams at the end of the day. But, it's like, you don't have the foundation that you have of, like, the world and the story and that kind of stuff there. And that stuff, that foundation that's already built there. Same thing with kind of Minecraft. Like, it gives you a lot of great tools. You're kind of left to, like, with a blank slate overall. Whereas with like Tears of the Kingdom, it's like, yeah, here's these tools, but here's this world to use them in that's already kind of pre-founded. So let's think about it, because like I said, I think what we're gonna find, at least in my mind, and you've played a lot more indie stuff, so you might know. Yeah. Like, I don't like, there are games that have these systems in there. Yes, I don't disagree with that. And there are games that are like the sheer size of Tears of the Kingdom in terms of content. I don't disagree with that either. I think that, but I don't think that there are many games that have both together.
I'll probably be able to find at least one or two, and get back to you.
And especially on this like AAA level of polish. So okay, well, that will be that's our like that's the end of the episode. Are you good with that? All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, thank you for listening to us this week. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon. Wherever you get your podcasts. We also have our website, game-crunch.com, where you can listen to all our episodes. They're all there. Every single one. All 517 of them are on that
Oh my god. What?
Yeah, we're on episode 5. Well, and there's unofficially more episodes because some are split into multiple parts. So, I don't know. We're probably close to 550. And also, next month's our 10-year anniversary. BTW.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all kind of... That's all out there. But, if you want to reach out to us, we're on Facebook, Twitter, or you can send us an email, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon.
Yes?
Any final thoughts?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. What lots of final thoughts episode?
Oh, I've already got one. But later,
okay.
for a game that would be AAA. That we'll come back to it. Because you know what? My example is probably going to get a third remake and is probably going to be $70.
Write it down so you don't forget.
It had one remake, by the way. It's actually had 2 remakes already, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just make sure you write it down so you don't forget. So when we come back to this next week, we have that to talk about. Then, I don't know. My name is Mike Anastasia. Find me online in Clash of Penguin. There or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Yeah, games.
Hello.
I'm so sorry. I was talking to Katie. All right, can you do that one more time? Just the ending part. My bad.
Game on.
Yeah, games good.